My husband's best friend, with his gaze fixed on me as if searching my eyes for the right words to comfort me, but all he succeeded in doing was to increase the weight of my anger and grief. "I don't know what to tell you," he started, his voice broken with discomfort. "I don't understand how he can be so blind, and forgive me for talking about him like this, but I cannot conceive how he can do this to you." His gaze wandered for a moment, as if he could not bear the intensity of my tears, then he turned back to me. Though his words were sincere, I found no comfort in them. I ran my hand over my face, wiping away the tears that were falling uncontrollably. "I think it would have been better if we had never stayed in the city," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "If we hadn't come back, he wouldn't have seen her again." He leaned forward, hands clasped, his fingers twitching nervously. "Don't kid yourself. It would have been the same anywhere, that man, he would have done the same thing no matter where you were." A wave of pain shot through my chest, and the tears came back harder. My husband's friend reached over, taking my hands gently, his warm fingers trying to offer support I couldn't accept at that moment. "I just don't understand. How could he change you for her? There is no comparison between you and her, and it's not that I don't value what she might have, but we have to be honest. You, my dear friend, have more, much more than she could offer your husband." I felt a pulse of irony and bitterness. "You say that because you are not blinded like he is. He doesn't see what I am, he only sees what she gives him." He shook his head with a sigh. "It's not fair what he's done to you. It's unbelievable how blind he is, but you don't deserve this, more like no one does." The warmth of his touch contrasted with the cold emptiness I felt in my chest, a chasm that seemed to grow with every word he spoke. And then something broke inside me, anger, frustration, and pain all mixed in a whirlwind that I could no longer contain. "I am full of rage," I told him, squeezing his hands tighter. "I want him to pay. I want him to feel what I feel now." My words echoed in the room like a dark oath filled with venom. "I want you to make him pay. I want you to be my accomplice in this thing I plan to do to my husband." He blinked in surprise at the intensity of my confession. "What do you want me to do?" His voice trembled slightly, as if he feared the answer. "You know I'm not someone given to violence, I don't know if I can help you there." A bitter, empty laugh escaped my lips. "No, of course not," I said, leaning a little towards him, getting closer. "I don't want you to physically hurt him, that would be too easy." My eyes searched his, intense and full of a determination I had never felt before. "What I want is for you and me to have something. You know, pay him back in the same coin, for him to feel what I feel now, to let him drink from his own chocolate. I want him to see what he's lost, what's taken away from him, bound by his own foolishness." He leaned back on the couch, his eyebrows raised in surprise. "I see it's desperation that's making you talk," he said with a sad smile, "but you shouldn't let revenge consume you. You are a beautiful woman, not just on the outside, but on the inside. There's no one like you in my eyes, but to do something like that just to quench that thirst for revenge doesn't seem fair to me, or to you." His words should have calmed me down, but they did not. I moved even closer, letting my fingers slide into my concealer, adjusting the fabric of my blouse. "Either you're afraid or you're short of pants," I challenged him with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. I watched him swallow, his Adam's apple bobbing up and down rapidly. I was about to say something when the sound of the door opening made us turn sharply, the clip of heels on the marble floor echoing through the house. It was my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law planted herself in front of me with flashing eyes, and her words echoed like a haunting echo. "I'm so sorry about what happened. I just found out and I'm here to help you." "Where is that scoundrel of a brother of mine?" she asked, her voice full of indignation. The warmth of her fury comforted me a little but at the same time amplified my own rage. "He didn't come, he probably stayed with that woman," I replied, feeling the words slipping from my lips like poison. "Sis, he got with that woman, didn't he?" she said with a tone that amplified her astonishment. My face lit up, and I felt the blush spread across my skin, increasingly visible under the fabric of my black dress, which at that point felt like a trap. "Come, I'll dry those little wounds," she continued as if she intended to relieve not only my physical bruises but also those that were eating away at my soul. That gesture of kindness, wrapped in the rawness of the situation, made me feel a strange relief. "Yes, sister-in-law, but you should have seen how she looked," I muttered, remembering the chaos in which I had left her. My sister-in-law frowned and, with a firmer tone, said to me, "Well, come on and take off that dress because it already looks like you were doing a show, it's just a little rag on you." The abruptness of her words made me feel vulnerable, and the tension became palpable between us. My husband's best friend, who had been in a corner watching the scene, lowered his head, unable to hold my gaze. "I think I'm leaving," he murmured, but his voice was lost in the flood of emotions. "Don't go yet, please wait a moment," I said in an attempt to hold his presence, a thread of connection with the reality I was still trying to hold firm. "Because better while I go and get ready, you cook some coffee and have one." The proposal left my lips almost instinctively as I headed for the bathroom. The echo of my footsteps seemed to mock my unhappiness as the door closed behind me. The outside world faded away, leaving me alone with my thoughts, my visible wounds, and the invisible ones that devoured me. I took a deep breath and said to myself, "It's time to face the inevitable." My sister-in-law, always resolute and direct, told me to put on something comfortable. She took me by the hand and led me back to the kitchen. As we entered the kitchen, my husband's best friend was there, sitting in one of the chairs next to the weathered oak table. When he saw us, he immediately stood up with a crooked smile, a mixture of politeness and something else. "Sit down, I'll serve you coffee," he said in that soft, gravelly voice that always seemed to calculate the weight of each word. "No, cafecito," my sister-in-law answered quickly, with a mischievous twinkle in her eye. "With this storm, what we need is a good drink. My brother has no right to leave you like this, and you need to calm that sorrow." I nodded, but not because I was convinced, but because I didn't have the strength to contradict her. The silence around us was momentarily filled with the creak of the drawer opening, followed by the faint tinkling of the glass as my husband's friend pulled out a bottle. The sound of liquid hitting glass as he filled the glasses had something of ritual, something of clandestine comfort. "And you, aren't you going to drink?" my sister-in-law asked with a tone that bordered on mockery. "Or do you just want to watch us drink, or do you want to do something to us?" she added with a laugh. My husband's best friend smiled half-heartedly and, without saying anything, poured his own glass. As he did so, the sound of the doorbell echoed throughout the house. My sister-in-law, with her usual efficiency, hurried to open the door, leaving us alone. An unexpected chill ran down my back. I looked at the man standing in front of me, his gaze was always controlling. It seemed deeper now, as if something that had been hidden for years had decided to come out. I seized the opportunity, and without thinking too much, I murmured, "I don't want you to leave. Please, don't leave me alone tonight." He froze for a second, his fingers intertwined with mine, and I felt a slight tension in his grip. "And if you can't help me with what I asked you to do, that's okay," I added, my voice trembling. "I really understand." His dark eyes, charged with pent-up emotion, bore into mine. With a quick gesture, he took both of my hands. "You don't know how much I want to give you what you're asking," he murmured. I pulled him gently towards me, feeling his breath hitch. Our faces were just inches apart, and before he could pull back, I brought my lips to his. A light kiss, a mere caress. He froze for a second, but something inside him seemed to snap. He held me tightly, his kiss now much deeper, more needy. "If my sister-in-law doesn't leave soon," I said, still with my lips brushing his. "Pretend you're leaving, but stay close, and I'll come out and get you." He nodded wordlessly but with the intensity of someone who understood that what was happening was more than just a betrayal or a night of madness. My sister-in-law returned with a carefree smile, she suspected nothing, and I, with my heart attentive to her in my ears, pretended that everything was the same as before. But nothing was. Who is it? I asked her. Don't pay attention, it's the neighbor who supposedly already found out about everything. But I told her not to take care of the others, but of herself, she said, pursing her lips. I think I'll be going now. She turned to my husband's best friend, who was sitting at the edge of the table, his empty glass reflecting the light of the lamp. So, let's clear out, she said. Yes, of course, we're leaving, he nodded, and one part of me was grateful for his company, although the other knew the situation was untenable. My sister-in-law, a sturdy woman with an understanding look, took the last sip from her glass, then rested her right hand on my shoulder, a gesture that conveyed warmth in the cold. I know what my brother did is not right, she began, her deep eyes searching mine, and I know you are an intelligent woman. I hope you don't think like some, to pay him back with the same coin. Because far from making things clearer, they will only get darker in my eyes and in the eyes of others. You have a very good reputation, you are a good woman. And if you want to do something, do it when you are completely free. I'm not going to ask you to forgive my brother because I don't know what I would do if I were in your place. That's for you alone to decide. But if you decide to leave, she said firmly, I want you to know that I will always support you. Then she paused, and her deep gaze revealed a mixture of understanding and concern. This house is my father's inheritance to my brother, but there is a clause, if either one fails his partner, he loses his right to the property, passing it to the affected party. Her words made me feel a weight in my chest, a mixture of emotions. She not only cared about me, but she was offering me a way out, a path to freedom. I am telling you this because I care for you and want the best for you, she added. With a deep sigh, she signaled my husband's best friend, and they both left, leaving me alone in the kitchen, surrounded by the shadow of his words. As I listened to the sound of their footsteps walking away, a reflection began to take shape in my mind. She was right. The only one who would get hurt by someone else being there just for revenge would be me. Besides, I had no feelings for my husband's best friend, although he did seem to have feelings for me. But I couldn't let anger guide me. I decided to stay at home and did not go out to look for my husband's friend as we had agreed. I tried to patch things up with my husband, but the truth was that nothing was the same anymore. His look, once full of love, was now only a reflection of the distance that had grown between us. Finally, the decision became inevitable. We parted ways, and the house that had been a home full of laughter and memories was left in my name. I felt a mixture of relief and sadness as I sold it, deciding that we would split it in two. My husband's friend, always by my side, began to become a constant figure in my life. His support was a beacon in my emotional storm, but despite his closeness, I still felt lost. Honestly, I began to feel something for him, a spark that illuminated the darkness I was in. But at the same time, I knew I wasn't ready to give way. I hope you will bear with me, I hope you can wait for me. But if not, then I hope something better will come into my life. Thank you for listening and spending time with my stories. Before I say goodbye, I want to recommend you to subscribe to my channel and activate the little bell without forgetting to press the thumbs up as a sign of what has been to your liking. A big hug from your friend, Lucy. Until next time.